Welcome to another lesson in business grammar skills essentials. In this lesson, we're going to talk about capitalization rules, how to properly capitalize, and when you should and when you shouldn't. And something also very, very, very important in business writing is learning to avoid fragments. So sit back and we'll go ahead and get started, and you'll learn to be a better business writer. All right, let's start with capitalization. And in order to understand the rules of capitalization, we've got to go over a couple of terms just to make sure we're speaking the same language. The first term is a proper noun. And a proper noun is a specific name of a person, place, or thing. Like Boise, Idaho, that's a proper noun. John Smith, a proper noun. A proper adjective is an adjective that is derived from a proper noun, such as Idaho potato, California poppy. All right, so we're going to go ahead and learn when to capitalize and when not to capitalize based on proper nouns and proper adjectives. All right, let's talk about the rules for capitalization. And even if you've been in business writing for lots of years, like I have, it still doesn't hurt to get a little refresher here. So, what are the things we're supposed to capitalize? Well, we always want to capitalize the first word of a sentence. Duh. Well, again, we're in a world of texting and social media, and we don't see a lot of proper grammar used there. But in business writing, especially, we want to make sure that the first word of a sentence is always capitalized. Also, you always want to capitalize the personal pronoun I and its derivatives such as I'll and I'm and I'd. We also want to capitalize proper names. We talked about what a proper noun was. We went to see the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, Kansas City Chiefs, that is a proper noun. That is the name of the team. All of that would be capitalized. Also, we want to capitalize the first word in a quotation. Now, we don't use quotation marks a lot in business writing, but if we did, we'd want to make sure that within the quotations, the first word is always capitalized. Well, this is also a good refresher for me. I tend to capitalize things when I shouldn't. So here's some more capitalization rules. We don't ever want to capitalize a non-specific person, place, or thing, such as I drove my car to work. Well, even though work is very, very important, it would not be capitalized. Also, we don't want to capitalize the first word in a partial quotation mark, such as Dan said, Finding Nemo was the best movie ever. Again, because that's not a direct quote, it's just a partial quote. We're not going to capitalize the be in best. But of course, Finding Nemo, that is a proper noun that would be capitalized. So we don't want to throw in too many capital letters. That makes us look bad too. And I have to catch myself with that a lot. And here's some more rules, and this is also where I tend to mess up a little bit as well. So we don't ever want to capitalize the common noun in a proper noun. Remember, the proper noun is the official name. So with this example, the California poppy, California would be capitalized because that is the proper noun, and then poppy is just a common noun. So again, we're not going to be saying California poppy with both being capital. Also, direction words such as east, west, north, and south, and I'm really bad at that as well, unless it's referring to a specific part of the country. For instance, northern Michigan is beautiful. Well, northern Michigan is a specific part of the country. Eastern Idaho, western Washington, northern California, those would all be capitalized because it's a specific part of the country. Or if I drove east to Washington, D.C., in that case, the east would not be capitalized because it's a direction as opposed to referring to a specific part of the country. Well, let's see if you were paying attention here. Okay, so I've got three examples here. So which sentence below has the correct capitalization? We drove north before driving east. I once drove through eastern Idaho. We will drive south in June. So think about it for just a second, and of course, we'll get the answer here in just the next slide. All right, well, of course, I'm sure you picked the second option. The first and the third are not correct because we don't capitalize simple direction words, so north, east, and south, unless they're referring to a specific part of the country, and eastern Idaho is a specific part of the country. All right, let's try one more and then we'll move on to fragments here. So which of these has the correct capitalization? We watched the Dallas Cowboys game. My favorite college team is Notre Dame. Reese's Pieces are his favorite candy. Well, think about it and let's see if you guessed correctly. And the answer is, well, I'm sure that you guessed correctly here. Let's talk about the first one. We watched the Dallas Cowboys. Well, Dallas Cowboys is a proper noun, and so both Dallas and Cowboys should be capitalized. My favorite college team is Notre Dame. Again, that is the name. It's a proper name. Notre Dame, both should be capitalized. Reese's Pieces is a common noun, but it is part of the proper noun, so indeed it is capitalized. So that is the correct one, and I'm sure you guessed that correctly. So let's move on to fragments. All right, let's do talk about fragments a little bit. Fragments are groups of words that do not express a complete thought. In other words, they're not a complete sentence. So, going back to grammar lesson one, remember that we need the subject and the predicate, or the subject and the verb. We also have clauses sometimes that we've talked about. And so we'll talk about how clauses can be fragments here, but you really want to avoid fragments in your written communication. I see them all the time in papers that I'm grading. I even see them in emails from my colleagues and coworkers. But because they don't express a complete thought, a fragment can lead to a misunderstanding and confusion. So let's see some examples of fragments and learn how we can avoid them. All right, let's look at some examples of fragments here. So here's some examples here. When I was 10 years old, before I went to the bank. Now, if you remember the clauses lesson, a fragment can be a dependent clause. Remember, a dependent clause is dependent on the other part of the sentence to make it make sense. So, when I was 10 years old, what happened? So what? Fragments can also just be simple phrases like driving the car, riding a horse. And so I'm left wondering, who was driving? Why were they driving? Those are all questions that fragments leave. So again, they can lead to misunderstanding and confusion. All right, let's see if you're getting the hang of this here. So I've got three examples here. Which of those three is a fragment? Joe surveyed the road for fast food signs. Wondering what he would have for dinner, Joe wondered what he would have for dinner. Okay, which of those is a fragment? Well, regardless of which one of those three is a fragment, or maybe all three, Joe doesn't eat very healthy. But let's go ahead and look at those three. So the first one actually is the fragment, wondering what he would have for dinner. Well, we're left wondering ourselves, what's he going to do? Why? Is he, going to stop somewhere or go to the grocery store? The other two are complete sentences. Joe surveyed the road for fast food signs. Joe wondered what he would eat for dinner. They are complete sentences. We know exactly what's happening, but that first one is a fragment, and we are left wondering ourselves. Well, that concludes our short refresher on business grammar skills, capitalization, and fragments. Just a real quick review here. Remember that you always want to capitalize proper nouns and proper adjectives. Don't capitalize direction words unless they refer to a specific part of the country, like northern Michigan. You want to avoid fragments. Fragments, remember, leave the readers confused and they're just waiting for more. Sentences, recall, you need both a subject and a predicate or a verb. Well, hopefully you like this video and it brings some things back to you, and you'll become a better writer now that you remembered all the things you were taught a little bit earlier on in life, or maybe you're just learning the proper way to use business English here. I do have several other grammar videos out there. Please look at my YouTube channel, consider subscribing, consider liking, and I do have supporting materials for grammar out on my website, luthermaddy.com. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.